Hi everyone. Welcome to the graveyard turn. Okay. But I have to say this. Wow. What stories we heard. I think all the inspirational stories must have put you all on a high, right? Yes? I know lunch is close by, you can talk. Right? Yes. I'll take a leaf of Vanita ji's picture. I'd like to remember that life is a road, and if life is a journey, I hope all of you have a smooth journey with lovely views around, and you get to go to places. I hope you have all that. But friends, if there is a roadblock, I want you to remember my resilience teacher. The year 2005, what happened in 2005?
We were born.
You were born, but there was also something which was born along with you. We had the worst tsunami we had ever expressed. With some friends, we took a lorry of stuff, wanted to distribute to affected hamlets. We went to this place, a camp in a school, and there I met my resilience teacher. There was this girl, 13 years old, dark, slim, dusky, unkempt hair. She was studying in 5th standard or 6th standard in the local school, and her hands were all full of bruises, scratches, some of them bleeding, still red, shining with the dried blood. She is my resilience teacher, Meena. I have to tell you that when I asked her when we reached there with the lorry, there was a big hullabaloo. Everyone wanted the stuff from us, and there was this little Meena who helped us, made all of them stand in a queue, told us what each member or each family needed. If there was an adolescent daughter, they said give them sanitary napkins. If there was a young boy, give him t-shirts. She decided how we distributed. 1 hour we managed to distribute all the stuff. And why is Meena resilience teacher? I told you she was full of scratches. I asked her how she got that. Meena was playing with her younger sister in the beach when the tsunami hit, and she was actually pushed onto the shore when the sister was sucked back into the sea. She watched her sister being sucked into the sea, and she was pushed, and as luck would have it, there was this bubble tree full of thorns, and she had held on to the tree for dear life, literally. And the waves battered her, and she kept being battered onto the tree all over, fully thorns, and she didn't let go. She held on to the tree. For about 20 minutes, she was just being bashed up the tree, and she didn't let go. Her whole hands were red, and finally she got rescued, and there she was. If there is a definition for resilience, isn't that it? That became my lesson. But then, my young friends, all crises don't come as tsunamis. We all have crises in our lives. Smaller waves that make you slip on the beach. Much before Meena entered my life was going like the road we saw in Vanita ji's presentation, smooth. I had passed in the civil services examination, couple of years service, well awarded, well rewarded, and I had just got married, got to Bombay, got the choice posting, doing extremely well. And then one fine morning I get a letter saying you cannot work in Department A anymore, where you have done so well. You will have to go to Department B and start all over again. While I was just getting my head around it, I got another shock. I went to a routine medical examination. I was told that I had cysts in my uterus. The least I could have was a few months of medication, but the worst is my uterus could have gone, and I was less than 30. I was still coming to grips with it when my husband was transferred from Bombay to Chennai. We were living in his house, and there was forget about transfer. First of all, I was not even sure which career I was in. And I went into a cocoon. When you have problems, what is the first question that comes to your mind? Just tell me. Why me? Exactly. And that was just the first of questions, and I was haunted by questions. Why me? And then it just went on to, where did I go wrong? A guilt trip? Or is it all worth it? A despair journey? And I went on wallowing in my cocoon of misery. We heard a lot of lovely stories today. Stories of, professional resilience, career resilience, startup resilience. My dear friends, I want to start with the resilience of the individual to go through all crises in life. I had all of them in small bits and pieces, but what we need to do is how do we face all this? So here I was haunted with all these questions, and then I found literally fate knocked sense into me. I had just escaped to Chennai. I was driving my scooter, and in a 90-degree curve, a bike fellow came and hit me from the back, and I fell onto the road. And as luck would have it, and it was luck, a doctor was coming by car behind me. She stopped, examined me in the middle of the road, and told me one thing. She said, I think you've broken your shoulder bone. But let me tell you one thing. If you had to have a bone broken in your body, let it be your shoulder bone because it heals very fast. It could have been a lot worse. And that became my resilience mantra, my friends. It could have been a lot worse. And then I realized that yes, this knock had really got some sense into me. I took off to Bombay. First met my landlord and told him I'll pay you extra rent, give me a few months' time. Then I started looking at it, and then I realized that you change your perspective and the problem changes into probable solutions. After all, look at it. You in the northern hemisphere, we in the northern hemisphere have summer in the morning in May. Go down to the southern hemisphere, you find your summer in December. You can find your summer whenever you want. So you just look at it from a different perspective, your problem gets solved. So the why me question I was facing changed to what choices are there before me. The second question, what did I do wrong, changed to what can I do right now? And of course, I've come to the last bit. So I just decided that I'll prioritize my health, got on to this medical treatment, and my doctor told me that the worst case scenario, you will lose your uterus. And if you lose your uterus, don't worry, you can have surrogate parenthood. I didn't have to go that far, thankfully. But still, the moment you realize that the worst case scenario has a solution, the rest of the issues just become simple. So then I got into my treatment. I decided not to change my career. At one point, I even thought of quitting it. But at this time, I said no. Then I went down to settling in my new career. I had help, of course. I had Sunita and Shanti trying to help me settle down in my new career. And the rest, as they say, is history. But coming back to it, I had a lot of learnings. My dear friends, for every individual learnings, I want to say there are 3 lessons I learned from my life's experience. 1, it can always be a lot worse. So anytime you look at it, I remember now that it cannot be worse than what it was for Meena. Seeing your own sister go right before your eyes and you can't do anything about it. And I know I could have had cancer, I could have had a lot worse. I got off lightly, so I decided that it is. And the second one, and therefore I decided to exercise my choice. I always have a choice. This was a lesson that I learned, number 1. You always have a choice. Exercise your choice. Doing nothing is also a choice, but I hope doing something is better than doing nothing. Because, lesson number 2, when does a crisis happen? What happens in a crisis? You lose control over your life. So here, I decided that I will have control back into my life. And therefore, I got settled in my new job. I went into it right earnest. I went into my treatment right earnest and I got better. And the third most important lesson I learned from this, ladies and gentlemen, this is the most important lesson we need to learn. That you will never be blindsided from now on. Lesson number 3, you will never be blindsided from now on. You need to have your own bag of tricks to handle any crisis that you could have. Because crisis doesn't come in one pattern. It could hit you from anywhere. So you need to have your bag of tricks ready. I went and enrolled into an evening school, did my law course. I did a few courses in HR because that is going to be my future. I did a certification, few courses. Then I did my trainings, several trainings on all HR related activities. I looked for new opportunities. I worked with ISRO, I worked with IIT, I worked with customs, and I worked here. I realized that I could have my bag of tricks and nobody is going to. I mean, if worse come worse, I will never be thrown out of my job because I have my experience and my expertise ready. We realized that I don't want to be, I started investing wisely. Nobody is going to throw me out of my house. I started taking positive health care. Nothing could blindside me, at least I hope so. So we realize that we need to, one thing that we need to realize is have your SOP for any kind of crisis ready. Of course, it cannot be fully perfect, but at least you are ready. Crisis, my dear friends, is an 80-20 affair. 80% of the times it hits you when you don't know it, when you don't expect. 20% of the times, there are signals there, we miss seeing it. So no crisis comes without signals, except that we don't realize when we see one. So flip it over. Make this 80-20 into 20-80, you're safe. Be ready for 80% of the crisis. The 20% can always be managed. Have your bag of tricks ready to meet maximum crisis points that could happen to you. That was something which I always learned. One of my previous speakers said, there's a lot of help available. Yes, help is available all around if you need it. But it's again an 80-20 game. The 80% of the help that is available outside has to be triggered by the 20% that is you. It all begins with you. You have to reach out for help. You need to know what help you want. The moment you reach out and you know what you're talking about, you know what you need, you will get all the help in the world. But can you put it? The trigger is in your hands. You begin. It all begins with you, ladies and gentlemen. I just want you to see what's there on the screen. I have the same thing in my hand. What is this? 500 rupee note? If I take it to a shop, how much can I buy things for with this? 500? Yes? No doubts? Right. What is this? If I take it to a shop, how much can I buy things for? Okay? Sure? I'm going to put it inside this envelope and tell me how much I can buy things for with this. Sure. Right? How much can I buy with that crumpled piece of paper? 500. Right? Ladies and gentlemen, remember this forever. As long as that paper is not torn, the intrinsic value of that rupee note remains. Nobody can take it away. Life can handle you in many different ways. It can give you a straight game. It can pressurize you and fold you under tremendous pressure. It can hide you under unrelated things. It can crumple you and throw you by the wayside. But the intrinsic value you hold in you can never be taken away from you. Don't let circumstances tell you otherwise. You hold the value of your life in your hands. Remember the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. What I can do, I ought to do. And what I ought to do, God helping me, I will do. And you hold the value of your life in you. And that is where your resilience begins. Jai Hind.